Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of a podcast. In this episode, we are going to be exploring some imposter syndrome, where you'll also hear from our personal experiences, as well as we're trying to follow a semi-structure in this one, just so that we cover the points that we want to cover. So, do you want to kick us off? What are we going to explore first?
Okay, so I think, obvious, we need to talk about what imposter syndrome actually is.
Okay.
So how would you describe imposter syndrome? What does it mean to you personally?
So personally, in a very basic way, and this is probably going to be so far from the definition that you've got. I feel like this is a test.
Okay, that's okay.
So personally, I feel like imposter syndrome means that you don't feel like you should be there. That like you feel like you've got to the position that you've got to by chance or by luck.
Yep.
So go on then.
That's not that far.
All right, okay.
In actual fact, that's pretty much it.
I feel like I'm in your classroom. I feel like no wonder your students like you. All right.
That's quite close to the actual definition. So basically, it's all about self-doubt.
Yep.
And it's fear of being exposed as being a fraud.
Okay, all right.
So you kind of think that you've got to where you've got to, or your achievements are through luck, not by actual hard work, that's paid off. So it's especially common in the legal profession.
Yep. Okay.
So in terms of why it's common in the legal profession is because of some of the unique.
That's a great blooper.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great blooper. So, in terms of why it's quite common in the legal profession is down to the unique pressures in that particular field.
Yep.
So things like culture of perfectionism.
Yes. Okay.
That's billable hours.
Yeah.
Competitiveness. These all fuel self-doubt.
Yeah.
So, have you ever felt pressure to be perfect all times? At all times, left no room for you to make mistakes, or no room for growth. Would you say?
I'd say 100%, definitely. Because my first instinct was, no, of course not. I've not felt the pressure to be perfect. And I think that's just because of me naturally as a person. I know that I'm going to make mistakes and I know that I'm going to own them, if that makes sense. But I think that's I've only turned out to be that kind of person as a product of what I went through on my training contract.
Okay.
My training contract was probably one of the worst times of my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah, 100%.
Why? I don't think I know this. Well, I mean, yes, like it was obviously hard work.
Yeah.
And you're learning a lot, and it's stressful.
Yeah.
Particularly keeping up with that bloody training contract record.
Yes. Oh, the training contract record. I had mine printed in a folder.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
I handwrote mine.
Yeah, same. Handwritten.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, so I think in my training contract, it was mine was probably a unique experience. It's probably not that bad across the board because it wasn't just hard work that was sort of putting in the pressure. I feel like there was quite a lot of bullying and harassment.
Okay.
I feel like that's what drove the perfectionism because I wasn't a perfectionist before that point either.
Okay.
I was very much of the mindset I really want to do it well and I'll spend loads of time on the task, but ultimately I know that this needs to get done, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think it doesn't help when I was on my training contract. I wasn't that long out of uni. I was still doing my LPC when I started my training contract.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So did you do LPC part-time or?
Yeah, I did the LPC part-time. Okay. So I did the LPC part-time when I was in my first ever proper job that wasn't a 0-hour contract in a hotel. You know what I mean? I was the master at being able to strip a super king size bed. Thank you very much. They would call in the big guns when we had a busy day. All right, is all I'm saying. But anyway, I've got to appreciate where I come from. But on my training contract, you would get screamed at in an open plan office if there was a punctuation mistake or a spelling mistake.
Really? What, like called out in front of everybody?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh my gosh.
I was screamed at. I still remember to this day because there was a tiny error that wouldn't have made any difference in terms of understanding what it meant or anything like that in the subject line of an email that I sent. And I got screamed at, basically saying that you've not got any attention to detail, you'll never be a lawyer because you're just that bad. Yeah.
Wow.
I can laugh about it now.
Yeah.
But obviously at the time,
it would have had a huge impact.
Yeah, my life wasn't worth living. And I don't say that lightly. Like, I genuinely, my students will know this because I've told them, but I'd cry on my way into work. I'd cry after work. I'd sit in my car and cry before I started driving. Like, I'd cry at my desk, but make sure that the perpetrators don't see.
Yeah.
Because if they do, then you've got a bigger problem on your hands.
They know they've got to you, and
so it was a lot of pressure to be perfect, just so that you didn't feel that wrath, if that made sense.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say it was quite a unique experience, because I'd like to think that most places aren't like that.
Yeah, I mean,
so you come across bad characters.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not in terms of like beating you down, in terms of your character and personality.
I mean, I haven't experienced that. I know some people that have had really bad times on their training contract as well. I've been quite lucky, but I know what you mean in terms of, trying to be perfect, because in my first role straight out of uni, I was a paralegal, and there were so many of us, all kind of going for training contracts, and you felt you needed to be perfect because of the competition. And in actual fact, I ended up leaving there because I knew I wasn't going to get a training contract, because there were so many paralegals that had been there a little bit longer than me, and they were ultimately going to get it before I was. So I ended up kind of moving on. But yeah, you do have that pressure to be perfect, so that you don't make any mistakes, so that you stand out, so that you're going to be considered for that training contract, or for a permanent position kind of thing.
Well, yeah, 100%, because there was even that pressure. Like, when my training contract came to an end, first off, with about half a year to go, they were saying that all of the trainees had a secure position to go into, and then over the weeks it started to translate to, oh, we've only got 2 positions now, oh, there's only going to be 1 available. And actually that probably had the reverse effect, because I'm sure that all of us as trainees applied elsewhere, and pretty much all of us left. So they didn't do themselves any favors. But I do feel like that's quite common in terms of pitting people against each other, especially
because they think it's going to make you work harder, isn't it? And show off your skills, and do more than what you're supposed to. In actual fact, it can work out the other way, and you leave because
But I think but it does happen, and it's true. It does have that effect, because you do work harder. Because you do want to prove yourself. But I think, I don't know, maybe I'm an old head on young shoulders, and it's the water bottle effect. Have you ever heard of the value of a water bottle increases or decreases wherever you are?
No.
So, for example, if you're in Costco, you can buy a crate of water bottles for like a $5 or something. Whereas if you're in the airport
at Ibiza, oh my god,
how much is a bottle?
It was like €10 or something ridiculous.
And it's all depending on the time and space that you're in, and the availability of the water elsewhere. So actually putting that logic into practice, your value will always be maximum somewhere. Just because the current place that you're in doesn't necessarily see it, doesn't mean that another place isn't going to see it.
So, that's true.
But yeah, I do definitely think, I wouldn't say that I suffered from imposter syndrome on my training contracts, but that's definitely what would have started it, if that makes sense. Just being in that environment. Later on, in my next job, working in child protection, I'd say there wasn't necessarily any bullying and harassment there. Great team. But it was the work that then made me feel like I needed to be perfect, because of the nature of the work. Like, there was literally children's lives on the line.
So you couldn't do anything wrong.
You definitely couldn't. Sometimes I like to think I've got an ice box where my heart is. You know what I'm saying? I can sleep for anything, mate. But on the rare occasion, a couple of cases would keep me up at night, thinking, have I done everything to a T? Because think about it, one silly mistake in court paperwork, not only could it jeopardize the whole case, but it could also jeopardize your reputation generally, which means that you are less respected with the private sector side, representing all the parents.
True.
Do you know what I mean? Even the judges, if they see that you've got loads of errors in all of your court paperwork or whatever, they're going to respect you less for it. So yeah, it was intense. But I don't know. Personally, I feel like I've dodged the bullet of feeling like I need to be perfect.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm so stubborn.
When you did feel like you needed to be perfect, do you think that, and if you did make a mistake, do you think that would put you off raising with someone more senior that you have made a mistake? Because I know a lot of people, you know, if they've made a mistake, they don't like to, you know, admit that they've made that mistake, and then obviously can spiral, you know, and get completely out of hand and be a lot worse than it would have been if you'd have just gone to somebody and said, I've actually made this mistake.
Yeah, I'd say it didn't put me off. I'd say that, like I say, I think it's because of just who I am. I'm stubborn. I'm like a stubborn old goat. So if I have done something wrong in my training contracts, for example, in that environment of like just, you know, no psychological safety, I'd say in that environment I would have still raised it.
Yeah.
Because whilst the seniors were, you know, interesting to work with at times. I had to think about phrasing that one. ChatGPT. You know what I mean? Say this more positively. So, while they were interesting to work with, they still maintained, and maybe this was a power play, they maintained that they will help you mop up your mistakes. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like that goes across the board. Wherever you work, generally, senior solicitors, it's almost like an innate thing in you.
Open door policy.
Yes, you will help fix someone's mistake and not necessarily blame them. In my training contract, I know that I would 100% got the blame behind closed doors. And I would have been screamed at left, right, and centre, but the mistake would have been rectified. So, but I completely understand why someone might not raise it in that situation, because it's almost as if like you don't want to tell your mum that you broke a favourite vase. You know what I mean? And even the disappointment that comes with that. You don't want to disappoint people. When people say, I'm not going to be mad, I'll just be disappointed. That's what I say to my students. But it's because it works. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'd always raise a mistake. People have to. I feel like it's dangerous.
It's so dangerous. And I was just about to say, like, I've always worked in a place where it's an open door policy, but I mean, even if it wasn't, I think I would 100% have to raise it because I'm the type of person that would worry about it.
Lose sleep.
Literally. And it would just eat away at me. So I would have to admit if I've done something wrong.
Well, especially because like the SRA, I'll put the plug in right now. The SRA, if you go on their website, whatever, their competence statement, all the rest of it, they're borderline obsessive. What I'm going to ask you though is, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome? Because you asked me, so have you?
Yes. So not so much like you say when I was training in my younger days. It's more so I think it's as I've got older. So I suppose it took the you know, opposite effect really, because you would have thought you'd get it when you were younger. But for me, I was all right most of the time in practice. Like sometimes I'd think to myself, oh, you know, I don't know enough to kind of take on that matter. Like, you know, if it was a commercial matter, commercial property matter with, I don't know, an option agreement or something that I wasn't familiar with, I'd think to myself, like, I can't do that. Like, I've not got enough experience in that. But where it really got me was applying for this job that we're in now.
Okay, all right. Interesting.
So obviously it was something that I've always wanted to do, but then when I applied and I got the interview, I almost didn't go to the interview. Because I was literally like, I can't do this. Like, I hate public speaking. How can I stand in front of a load of like students and, you know, deliver a lecture? I can't even like speak up in a meeting, or I could never speak in front of like a load of people. Or I don't know enough about like property, even though I've been practicing it for 9 years. How can I be a teacher? How can I teach this subject? So I literally almost didn't go for the interview. And then I think I mentioned it in my intro. So my dad was like, you've got to go for this. Like, even if you don't like get the job, you know, what you get from the experience of doing that interview, like if you apply for another one, you know what to expect. he was like, you've wanted to do this for so long, you've got literally nothing to lose.
Yeah.
So I put my big girl pants on, and yeah, I went to the interview, and obviously had the interview. I think I was the first one to be interviewed. Mine was at 9 o'clock in the morning. But for me, that kind of helped because I couldn't,
you would have been stewing about it all day.
Yeah. But I was also, before the interview, I was making up excuses because I was going away to Edinburgh the weekend before for my cousin's 40th. So I was like, I'm not going to have time to prep for the interview. I'm going to be a bit hungover and all this. Like, I'm not going to be able to do it. So I was like making loads of excuses. But then I was just like, you know what? I've just got to do it.
I'm glad that your dad told you to go for it. It's breaking my heart thinking that. I've never met you.
Yeah.
You didn't go for the interview.
I know.
But you did have to do it. We had to do a presentation for it,
We did, yeah. And I was fine with that because I was talking about something that, I did every day, because I literally did my presentation on, mine was like a little lesson. So it was like a mini lesson, and it was like how to draft a TR1 in property, and I gave them like an exercise to do. So like I gave them some official copies and a blank TR1, and they had to.
No wonder you got the job.
Draft their own based on how I taught them it.
Yours sounds cool.
So that's what I did, and then because I knew how to draft TR1 and I was confident and I knew about it, like it was something I did every day.
Yeah, you could obviously. Yeah, you would have come across confident.
It was fine. Yeah. So the presentation itself was all right.
It sounds like you over prepped for that.
Well, that's a classic. One of my
imposter syndrome.
Yeah, is like, what are the signs? And over prepping is one of the signs.
Yeah.
So I always over prep. It was like when I used to have to go to court. I literally would be prepping like pretty much all night the night before, and I wouldn't sleep.
Yeah, that's it. Girl.
Yeah, it's mad.
Girl.
Just for like a half an hour hearing or something. Like
sometimes, and especially like the unknowns when you go to court. That's the spiciness of it. Ooh,
no, my mind would literally just go blank.
To be fair, that's how I ran my interview as well for this job. So, like, yours sounds really professional. Like, you had tasks for them to do. You know what I did for mine. I bought a fucking doll, and I walked in there with a doll and my static piece of paper that I put up behind me, and that's it.
There we go.
I can't believe
you got the job.
Yeah, you got the job, and this is what you need to tell yourself, because I'm just gonna pause there, and this is something I say to my students all the time, especially my female students, where there's that statistic, isn't there? I can't remember it off the top of my head, but they say that men will just apply for a job even if they hit like 20% of the essential criteria.
Yeah.
Whereas women feel like they need to hit 100%
before they'll go for it.
Be 100% qualified before they go for it. But actually, like, we need to start putting ourselves out there more.
Oh, 100%.
Clearly, you got the job.
Yeah.
Clearly, you're qualified.
Yeah. So
Right. Interesting. So you think imposter syndrome is creeping in a bit more as you're getting older?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is interesting, because you hear about people saying, "Oh, well, when I hit 50 or whatever, I just didn't care about anything." Yeah. But I wonder if that's still coming.
Maybe when I hit 40.
You never know. You might just be like, "Yeah, I don't care about
But
anything."
even now, a little bit. Sometimes I'm like, who am I to like grade a student's work? Do you know what I mean? Or grade this dissertation. Who am I to like, give them a grade that's going to affect the rest of their life? In essence,
100%. But I feel like that mindset is good for you to keep, because you're not underestimating the power and responsibility you have in your role.
Yeah, true.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not just treating it like it's nothing. You're making it you've got such a considered approach.
Yeah.
That if anything, that's what students would like to hear that their tutors are doing when they're marking their work.
Yeah.
Rather than just thinking, "Oh, this is just one piece of work in the grand scheme of things, it's fine."
Yeah.
Like, actually, think about how much time and effort they've put into each of those pieces of work. I'm sure that they'd like to think that their tutors were taking the same time and effort to mark it. Also, you say, "Who am I to do this?" You are the person that did your own dissertation. You did your own undergraduate. You did your own postgraduate.
Yeah.
You've done your training contracts. You've been in practice. You've done all of the things, if not more, than what most of the students have done or are trying to do.
Yeah.
At their stage.
Yeah, this is true. Sometimes you just need a bit of a pep talk,
don't you?
I
think so, 100%.
Which is why it's good to, sometimes do your, your gratitudes.
Yeah, have your gratitude, but also have a good support network around you. And it doesn't matter what that support network looks like. So I don't have a massive family.
Okay, stop.
But you make it up as you go along. Like how you were saying in the other episode about, you know, you'd been working at a few different places and you'd built up a support network for yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's basically what students need to be doing before they even get into practice, to just peter some of this perfectionism and imposter syndrome out before it hits.
Yeah.
But there's, on the point of getting imposter syndrome, the further you get into your career, I knew a couple of people when I was in practice when I was qualified, and they were qualified, they had years on me in terms of experience, but they would openly talk about imposter syndrome and how it's affecting them day to day. And you could see sometimes that it was really affecting them.
Yeah.
And on the outside perspective, someone like me, I'm thinking, you're brilliant.
Yeah.
You're absolutely, like, you're smashing it out of the park.
Yeah.
You would be the person that I would come to for advice or help on a task. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's because from the outside, what I'm seeing is, even for you, for example, over prepping. You're organised, you're this, you're that. So of course I'm looking at you as, you've set an example for me to look up to.
Yeah.
Even if we're on the same level. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But all of that is almost like, you're like the swan where your feet are going for it underneath the water, aren't you?
Literally. Yeah.
So,
and I was actually saying this to a student earlier because, you know, she was asking for some advice and whatever, and she's just like, oh, sometimes I think to myself, like, I just can't do this. I can't do this course. And I was like, you know, it's imposter syndrome. I was like, you know, we all have it. Like, I have it really badly. And she was like, what? She was like, I look at you and I think that you know everything. And I'm like, no, I do not know everything.
When we get home, we're looking for the suitable adults to ask.
Literally, I'm always like, I need an adult for this because, you know. So, yeah, like, I guess it is the swan effect, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And you're right. I think we've all got a little touch of it. It's just different degrees and it's different situations. So, situations that I might feel like I'm an imposter in, you might feel like you're an expert in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not, I feel like sometimes when people hear about imposter syndrome, they think it's just across the board and you just feel like a walking imposter going into Aldi. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But actually, like, it's not necessarily across the board for everybody. Don't get me wrong, it probably does go to that degree and extent for some people. But yeah, I think also it comes from just how much of a hard journey it is to get to where you go into in law. It's years.
It's long, isn't it?
So just even for mine, 3 years undergrad, 2 years postgrad, training contract 2 years. So that maths isn't my forte because I chose words.
Yeah, I always say that. I'm a lawyer, not a mathematician.
So that's like 7 years.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also I think because the law is constantly changing, you're constantly learning, like, you never feel like you're an expert because it's always
there's always
changing. There's always something new to learn.
There's always something to keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
So I think it's the journey sometimes of getting there. When you finally got there, sometimes it's just too good to be true. Do you know what I mean? It's So I remember my first day as a qualified solicitor, I was thinking, like, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm actually a grown up now. I need to just work in this job and pay my bills.
Did you feel any different though? Like,
no. But people treated me different for sure.
I felt no different.
Everybody expected me overnight to be a goddamn expert in XYZ.
Yeah, it's like overnight you stop having your letters like reviewed. So how is it different from yesterday?
It's no different. But no, you don't feel any different. Unless you make a nice old LinkedIn post and everybody gives you loads of praise and stuff, then hear it. But in reality, nothing changes.
No.
And you're still the person that you was before you qualify, but not in a bad way. You're still that diligent person that's over preparing, overworking. Yeah. And if anything, you've set yourself a good foundation. But they do say that the legal industry is one of the sickest professions out there, and not sick as in cool, like sick as in unwell. And I think it is to do with this whole imposter syndrome situation, mental health being taboo to talk about. In practice, I feel like it's not a pressure. It's like this subtle sort of undercurrent of, you've got to seem like you're doing all right, because if you look like you're struggling too much, people are thinking you can't do the job.
It. Yeah. then you're not going to get that promotion.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You're not going to get that big case.
Yeah, if the cracks start to show. So not only do people cover up the cracks in imposter syndrome by over-prepping and all the rest of it, they also cover up the cracks in their mental health.
Yeah.
And put a smile on when they don't need to.
Yeah, and it's all about the billable hours as well. Like, some of the billable hours are insane.
Yeah.
I was lucky because, you know, with conveyancing, we didn't have to time record because all our fees were fixed, really.
Okay, right, that's good.
So, but we still had that pressure to hit our targets with those fees that obviously we were bringing in. But because, like, they were fixed, like, you could spend hours on one case and you still get the same amount of money.
That's the problem with
it was really hard to, like, you know, get a high billable, you know, high percentage in terms of bills because it was fixed fee. So you kind of had to feel like you were having to work 10 times harder to hit your targets.
So I've got a question for you because I never had to do billing necessarily because obviously I stayed in the public sector. Shout out to the public sector, what I'm saying. But so billing sounded like my worst nightmare because, man, it was hard enough doing that training contract record.
Yeah.
And keeping on top of that. Never mind remembering what I've done for the day and recording it. Like, we did a bit of that in public sector where it was time recording to see how much time you were spending on tasks.
Yeah.
And even just to try and keep up with that, I felt like I was working on that more than I was doing on my actual job.
Yeah.
So did you feel like billing, first of all, was billing difficult, but also second, did you feel like billing had some sort of impact on your value?
Well, with conveyancing, you didn't have to, like, literally write down, you know, how long you'd spent on different things, on different files and stuff. What billing was for us is, you know, we just have to hit a certain amount each month. So it wasn't hard in the sense that, you know, I had to remember how much time I'd spent on each file because it didn't really matter because I was just getting a fixed amount of money for that file. So at the end of the month, we would look to see, obviously, how much we'd billed. And sometimes, you know, if we'd hit our target that month, we might hold some back and bill it the next month, so to help with the month going forwards. So you sometimes had to be tactical with it. But yeah, absolutely, it was definitely, you know, had an impact on your value because if you didn't hit your targets to the senior partners and the equity partners, you weren't working hard enough. But it was also really, and if you didn't hit your targets, you won't get your bonus. But then also, like I said in a previous podcast, like, the goalpost would get changed so much sometimes in terms of how much you needed to bill. Like, you know, you felt like you'd hit your target and then it would change and it would be more. And then every year it would get more and more, but your fees wouldn't go up that much. So it was difficult. It was depressing at times.
Yeah, I can imagine. That sounds nightmare.
And it does have an impact on, obviously, your mental health because you're constantly thinking, oh my God, I haven't billed that much this month. Oh my God, they think I'm shit. Oh my God, they think I'm not doing any work. Oh my God, you know, they're going to get rid of me, kind of thing. So yeah, it was difficult in that sense.
Yeah. But actually, so that's literally just one small record of what you've been doing that month. When actually, like, if we looked at the qualitative data of the clients' lives that you've impacted and how much they love sitting down and having a meeting with you and how you're so clear in communication and blah, 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 all of that good stuff. It doesn't get
taken into consideration unless you get your client satisfaction surveys back, and, you know, they actually send them back half the time. They don't. And but actual facts, like, you know, if I did write down everything I did and how long I spent on each file, I could be charging some files. I could be charging $5,000, like, you know, because some files would take forever, particularly if there was like a defect in the title or something like that. It would take a long time to sort out. Oh, hello, thank you for that little kiss. But I guess the next kind of talking point we have, the next kind of talking point would probably be, I think we've probably maybe spoken about this, like gender dynamics and bias, like structural barriers, lack of representation, unconscious bias, make women more likely to question their competence.
Yeah, we definitely talk about in the EDI podcast.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, obviously, like just a small note, if you don't see yourself represented in senior management or in certain positions, if you don't feel like it's a representation of you or the background that you're coming from, it's hard to see yourself there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I've said before, like, I always felt that, you know, I didn't progress as quickly as others that were male, obviously because I was female. So I think, you know, there is that restriction there as well. One of the other talking points I've got is the role of first generation lawyers. So obviously it says here, women without legal professionals in their families often feel like outsiders even when highly qualified. So were you the first female lawyer in your family?
Yeah.